Hi, and welcome back to Lisa's Stamp Studio. Spring is in the air using the Abstract Impressions stamp set from Stampin' Up! To create this beautiful sunny card. The stamp set includes varied greetings, which is going to allow you to use this type of card for many different occasions. If this is your first time visiting my YouTube channel, I'd like to encourage you to subscribe by clicking on the subscribe button below. Make sure you click that small bell icon that's next to it. That will send you notifications of when I'm live here on YouTube, as well as when I upload a new video. Let's head over to the stamp table and let's get started on today's project. Here's a close-up of the card we're going to be creating together today. Isn't it pretty? The designer series paper in this package is absolutely stunning. You'll find that paper here in the annual catalog with Stampin' Up! And it's called Garden Impressions. 6 by 6 inch pieces of paper that are 48 sheets to the package. There are 4 each of 12 different double-sided designs, and they are beautiful and gorgeous garden designs. If you're interested in a copy of the current catalog, just leave me a comment at lisasstampstudio.com. Just click the contact button there at the top. I'm going to bring in a small piece of grid paper to protect my work surface. This is 7 inches by 7 inches. I also sell it 18 inches wide on a pad. You'll find both in my online store. I've got a piece of So Saffron cardstock, and I'm going to be using the coordinating ink pad. That's the great thing about Stampin' Up! Products is the color coordination. One of the things I've been recently teaching with stamp sets is how to be able to create your own designer backgrounds using the same images that are in the set, and we are using Abstract Impressions. You're going to see here that there's a posy image here that's meant to line up on top of these leaves, but I'm going to use it for the background. I have it mounted here. It is photopolymer, which means it's clear. The great thing is it's going to turn the color of the ink so you can see where you're going. I don't want it too strong, so I'm going to stamp off one layer of ink here on my scratch paper, and then I'm going to stamp it here on my cardstock. And you're going to see me moving the paper and keeping my hand stationary, because that's certainly a lot easier than turning my hand. And I'm going to fill up this background to make it look like pattern paper. I'm going to set this off to the side, and I'm going to be using a scrap piece of Whisper White cardstock, and I'm going to be using the Stitched Shapes framelits. Circles, ovals, and squares in graduating sizes, all with a pretty stitched border. I've pulled out the largest shape from that die package, and I've got my die cutting machine here. I'm going to go ahead and place my cardstock here and my die in the corner just to maximize my scraps. I'll protect that die with another clear mat, and we'll go ahead and crank that through to die cut that image. I'm just going to pull away the negative, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press around the inside here to loosen up the framing around the stitching. I want to make sure that that's not ripped as I dislodge the cardstock. I'm going to bring that scratch paper back in. I flipped it over so it's not so distracting for you. And on this stitched square is where we're going to do some stamping. I'm going to be using the shaded spruce ink pad for the grass and the stems. And I've pulled out this image, which looks very, very similar to the other image that's here. You'll see this one's a little bit bolder and this one's more of an outline. This is a two-step stamp set, which means the images are intended to be stamped one on top of the other for a 3D look. You're going to notice that this one has the long stem here for the flower. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to ink this up. And just like I've done before, I'm going to stamp off a layer of ink on my scratch paper so I can make it a little bit lighter. And I'm going to squeeze this all the way over to the right-hand side of my paper. Now with that other image, I'm going to come in full strength. I'm not going to stamp this one off. I'm going to stamp right over the other. And that's going to give us that great 3D look. The next step is to add the flower, and I'm going to use the Blueberry Bushel ink pad. I chose these colors because they are reminiscent to the designer series paper. And just like the leaves, there are 2 images for the flower. Do you see the stem here? This is where we're going to stamp it. This is the more solid image. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to ink that up, and just like we've done, I'm going to stamp it off to make it a little bit lighter, and I'll stamp this here at the top. There's an additional image there that's going to add the depth, very much like we did the leaves. So I'm going to ink this up as well, and this is going to go right over the top. I wanted to add a little color here to the inside of my flower. Using a marker, I risk bleeding those colors together. So I'm going to go back to the So Saffron ink pad. And the great beauty of having the stamp set is I'm looking at other pieces in here thinking what would work. And I saw this image here. This outline fits on the bottom of these flowers for that 2-step depth look like we've done here. I have the image mounted here, and this small piece on this end, this is the only one I'm going to ink. I'm going to tap it on my ink pad, concentrating only on that image. I think you can see it. And then this is going to go right in the center of my flower. It's very small and subtle, but it's going to lend credence to the overall card. I've chosen the greeting from that exact same stamp set, and this says, "There is so much to love about you." Again, with the blueberry ink, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stamp this over here on the left-hand side. This is why I wanted to move that over as far as I could. I want to add some ribbon here to the card, and I want to give you a little tip about saving some ribbon. You can go all the way around this layer, but that's really a waste of about 4 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut 2 pieces to do what I want to do. Back with my silicone craft sheet, I'm going to add glue dots on both ends. So I have my glue dots here, and I'll peel back one. I know those might be difficult to see in the video. I'm going to take one end and I'm going to press it on top of there, and I'm going to do the same thing with the opposite end. I'm going to line this up where I want it on my card. I'm going to wrap the raw ends to the back. That's not going to be seen since this is just going to be a layer on the card base. I've got another piece of the same ribbon. This is about 8 inches. And then what I'm going to do is make a bow out of this. Take my scissors, I'm going to trim up those 2 ends. I'm going to come back over to the image that we've stamped. I'm going to take this and I'm going to flip it over now, and I'm going to add adhesive to the back side. That's going to get adhered to a layer of the coordinating blueberry cardstock, and I'll press that in place. The Whisper White is going to be the card base. I did score it right before you joined me, and I'll go ahead and fold that in half. I like to use my bone folder for that nice crisp edge on my card. And then this is going to get layered on here. So I'm going to flip that over as well, and I'll add adhesive to those 4 corners. That'll get mounted right here, leaving a small margin of white all the way around. Remember our greeting? I'm going to flip that over and I'm going to grab my dimensionals. I like to use one in each of the 4 corners. I'm very cognizant that I'm going to be mailing my card. I'll even put one in the center on this one since it's a rather large piece. I'm aware that the postage machine has rollers in it over at the post office, and that can do a real number on our cards on the receiving end. So I like to make sure that those are well balanced. Now on my original card, I mounted this down here because this piece was a little bit higher. Let's change this up a little bit and let's move this one up closer to the top. Remember that small bow? Let's go ahead and add that with a glue dot as well. I'm going to press that knot right here on the back of the bow. Anything that might be exposed, I can tuck to the back. And then I'm going to stick that right down here where I want it. There we go. We have our card. Here's the one we made together today where the image is up a little bit higher. This is the one I made before you joined me where it's overlapping on the Designer Series paper. I'd love to know which one you prefer. Leave me a comment down below. If you have enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up. It makes YouTube and I both very happy. Thanks so much for joining me, everyone. I look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day.